spiraling inflation, widespread poverty, political meltdown. These are just some of the problems facing the people of Zimbabwe. The Catholic Church is doing its utmost to bring hope to a desperate situation. But where does the focus of her efforts lie? And what are the roots of the Church in this land?
Concerning the history of the Catholic Church in Zimbabwe, well, some people who did the initial efforts, to evangelize this country as far back as the 16th century.
Now, when we are speaking of the early history of the Church, then we are looking at the history of the Church that is not just of Zimbabwe, but of the region rather, because there was no Zimbabwe at that time, there was no Rhodesia at that time. It was the Mwenemotapa Empire. That is when we had the first missionaries from Portugal under the leadership of Gonzalo da Silveira, Father Gonzalo da Silveira. He is the man who baptized the first emperor, Nekomo Mupunza Gutu, that was his name, and his mother and the rest of the family. But unfortunately, these missionary efforts died off because Father Gonzalo da Silveira was killed, apparently in a conspiracy which involved some Muslim traders in Tete in Mozambique.
And the second attempt was only made in the 19th century, which was then successful with Portuguese missionaries coming from Mozambique across the eastern border of Zimbabwe and then into the country.
Firstly, it was Protestant missionaries who came in, and later Catholic missionaries joined. Now, the Catholic missionaries came into the country with the pioneer column of Cecil John Rhodes.
Well, since then the church has spread all over the country, covering the 8 dioceses of which we now have of Zimbabwe. Well, so much then perhaps for the initial efforts at evangelizing, this country.
Before independence, before 1980, you find most of the missions that we have were already established. In fact, there are very few missions that we established after 1980. There was not much alliance between the Catholic Church and the state as there would have been between the Anglican Church and the state. And therefore you find that during the war of liberation of this country, the Catholic Church was quite outspoken in the defense of the local people against the Rhodesians, for instance.
The political situation in Zimbabwe for Catholics is a bit challenging in the sense that we have our Catholic faithful involved very strongly in politics. They are all coming to church, but they are not belonging to the same parties. The same people whom we are preaching to sometimes, when they now go outside there, they tend to turn against each other.
In 1982 to about 86, there was a civil disturbance which we usually call Gukrahondi. People were killed. About 20,000 people lost their lives in Matabeleland and Midlands. So that trauma is still there.
I would say right from the 1980s, when we thought we had got independence and the democratic system was promising. But really, if you look at the way how the elections were held, just from there, it was a lot of violence was involved. And that fear was really instilled in the larger population. When the elections were robbed from them, they were so demoralized, so much that they no longer trust the whole system.
So that trauma is still there. That fear is still there. But we cannot live with that fear forever and ever. We need to move on. We need to build. We need to change.
we are trying to conscientize our Catholics that we become mature, that politics is not meant for you to shed blood.
I don't know, we would like to see that there is a real, clear harmony among the people. No matter which party or which opinion do I have, right? But to live in this multi-party society where real and true democracy can prevail.
Children are brought up with differences. Some are already angry with each other because they simply belong to different parties and to different families. And as a church, we cannot watch this and keep quiet. We need to reach out to help reconcile the children so that their influence can also go to the parents. And I see education as one of the only powerful tools still at our disposal. We have been approached as a church if we could establish a school. These premises we are in have been granted to the Catholic Church, and this building is meant for a church. The community comes to pray here on Sundays. During the week, the children are learning here, and on Sundays we come to worship. We hope by God's grace that we will be able to build a school where the children will be able to learn well. When children get sick, they are sent to nearby hospitals where there's generally not enough medicine. And because of that, they are given prescriptions, asked to go and buy the medicine, and most of them cannot afford it. So the children sometimes just come to school sick because they can't afford the medicine. I'm reminded of that because of this young child I'm seeing here. They stand on the bench there. This is rash. It can be treated, but unfortunately, probably there is no money to buy the medicine. It just comes to school. Our real concern is if it spreads to other children, then a school won't be that good place to send children to. So we are very much concerned, but we are happy that they are contented themselves. Thank you. Good boy. Thank you.
Follow. Follow the leader. I clap. I clap. I clap. I clap. I clap. I clap. I jump. I jump. I jump. I jump. I jump. I jump. I sit. I sit. I sit.
Illnesses in the schools. We have some really identified cases of children with AIDS. Now they are asked to go to get medicine from time to time, particularly in the rural areas. And the cost of transport from their place to the big hospitals is very, very expensive. You always watch it with tears dropping because you can't do much, you can't help everybody. And yet the desire is there.
I think children of Zimbabwe loves to go to school because they know that education is the key to success. If there is no education, there is no life. But we can see that we do not have enough resources at schools.
No exercise books, no adequate resources for their family members to support them. So it's so difficult for us to go to school.
When we opened the school this term, one school had only 2 teachers out of 15. Another school had 3, also out of 15. And the third school had only 1 teacher out of 12.
The major challenges that we are facing presently is that of teachers who are disgruntled about the salaries that they are getting. It is far below the poverty datum line.
Nowadays, it's no longer pleasing to become a teacher.
Our basic needs is we don't have. Those teachers who are smiling outside, it's just because Zimbabweans are good at smiling, but truly speaking, we are in trouble.
So we find that at times, people will not come to work, not because they don't want to, but because they do not have the money.
Our parents are putting effort to send us to school, but some of the teachers may not come. Yet we spend the whole day sitting. We find it difficult to read on our own without teachers.
You get pupils the whole morning. They are just there in the classrooms, they are milling around, they don't have a teacher to teach them.
I'm currently seeking for something which is good for me, which is food, and other resources for learning, like books, something like that.
The children are coming hungry to school, and they go back hungry unless they get some supplementary feeding at school.
The food situation is also affecting us, and affecting very much. We don't have access to the staple food as we had. Our people do not have access to it as in the past.
There's nothing in the shop. And many people are going to Botswana. Those who cannot go to Botswana, they wait to buy the food which is coming from Botswana, and they double the price. So that's how we are surviving.
And above all, you need a personal contact to the party membership. If you are a member in good standing with the party and the local MPs and the local governors, it's easier to get food. And the Catholic Church, because of their stand on critical issues, is deprived of food in many areas. So a worker of the church is labeled and is marked. It's very difficult to get food. And so we are trying to supplement, to help the teachers, to assist them in their basic needs.
I haven't eaten as I am speaking today. I haven't eaten. It may sound very untrue, but it's very true. I have not eaten, but I was in class there.
I, for one, am finding it difficult to provide that for my children. And you find at times some pupils even faint. They tell you they are sick. But we manage to give them some food, then they are up.
The first meal they will have is lunch, which is provided at school. The whole morning they are trying to learn on hungry stomachs.
I'm the example of someone who's suffering from hunger. So I walk at least 7 kilometers. By the time I approached this school, I felt very exhausted. So it becomes a challenge to me to learn very well.
The morale generally is low. We have really to put in extra effort to boost their morale, but it's generally low.
There's been an exodus of teachers going for greener pastures outside the country. Their fees are too high for the people. So most of the children are going to school to go and while up time. They are not teachers.
Zimbabweans want to be in Zimbabwe. They don't want to be in South Africa. But they are faced with a situation where Zimbabwe, which is their mother country, is not life-giving anymore. They just simply can't live. They don't have food. They can't just go out and buy a bottle of milk or a loaf of bread.
Most young people, even if they don't have skills, they just want to go out to provide labor somewhere there and just work so that they can get something.
It's not a joy to work outside your own home, where you are always going to be labeled a foreigner.
South Africans are not welcoming of Zimbabweans, not all the time. There are people who understand and would take people in, give them food, give them clothes and so on. But generally people are becoming very xenophobic.
It's not safe because they are having continuous mugging, and we have so many reports about the stories which are happening there. It's unfortunate, and people go there and in fear.
A lot of Zimbabweans, when they finally arrive into South Africa, they have only the clothes on their back. Their money has been taken away. Whatever valuables they might have brought, sometimes people bring things to sell, arts and craft, that could also be taken away from them.
They are actually accusing us for taking away their jobs, and they are also accusing us for taking away their women. They are also accusing us for all sorts of things, of which that is not the case. We are self-employed to do our own things, and we're thinking that this is a good haven for us Zimbabweans, since our country is facing a lot of problems economically and politically. That is the reason we are here.
When they get to before they get to the border, they have to cross the Limpopo River, which, if the rains have been very good, it's a very big river with a very strong current. People get swept away. There's crocodiles in the rivers. They get eaten by the crocodiles. And when they cross illegally through the border, they're crossing over or under barbed wire. So some of them get electrocuted. And then they have to walk through the local farms in Messina, where some of them are mauled by wild animals such as lions and so on. So it's quite a great deal of things that they have to deal with before they even get to South Africa. And when they arrive, they still have more to deal with: the xenophobia, being arrested, being taken back, and having to walk over again through the same things as they did before.
Inflation is we can't talk about the figure because it is always skyrocketing each and every day. And we are likely going to face a problem of unemployment, food shortage. And our families are expecting much from us, but this is not going to be, because we are going empty-handed like this. You know, everything was looted. It's a very big problem to us, and we are very angry about this situation.
I hope when we get home, things will gonna get better. But hey, I can tell you, life here is difficult, and it's like, hey, it's like a tsunami. I don't know how to express it.
I'm leaving because of the xenophobic attitudes towards foreigners by locals. Africans, we have got a tradition of welcoming visitors, but I don't know really where this has gone wrong.
The black people are just now starting to move into the towns where they couldn't live before, go into the same schools as the white people, buy in the same shops and so on. And while they are just starting to do that, they find themselves faced with other people now coming from their own country and wanting to share the same resources that they feel it is time we are able to access. So I think you understand in a way where South Africans are coming from. It's basically just fear of losing out to someone who comes from somewhere else who should be getting this in their own place.
When I come on my visits to Germany and overseas, there are more and more people inclined to tell me, don't waste your time in Africa, come back. They have to learn how to look after themselves. On the one hand, it is okay, everybody has to look after him or herself. But on the other hand, the global world is growing closer and closer together. We assist on each other. And I tell people in Europe, we are used to take minerals and any other things from Africa because we need them. Why can we not also give them humanitarian aid, to live with them, to animate them? And that's the reason why we are here.
Given our economic situation, we often find ourselves in a situation where the local church cannot support itself. And that's mainly because the laity, the faithful themselves, find themselves in a situation where they cannot support themselves given the rate of inflation within the country. And so really we are very grateful to international benefactors who have actually stepped in, over the years and supported the local church in different ways. Without that support, I don't think the church would have been able to sustain itself, to the present.
I would expect from the Christians certainly prayer. I think it is God. He is the only one who can touch our hearts and can change our minds and can make us come to our senses. I am convinced that is a major point, the major help that I would ask for.